Hello and welcome. Now let's take a look at edit mode inside of Blender. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually play around with this cube a little bit. A cube is oftentimes the basic shape that people use to model things. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this cube into a more circular shape. If we go over to the right hand panel here, under the modifier, which kind of looks like a wrench, these are the modifiers you can add to an object. Let's add a subdivision surface to this cube, and let's turn the view to 2, and notice how the cube kind of turned into more of a spear shape, and we're going to hit the button to apply it. Now I'm going to use my middle mouse wheel button to zoom in a little closer to this new shape that we have that looks a lot more like a spear, but it started out as a cube. And if I hit the tab key on my keyboard, this will let me go into edit mode. Inside of edit mode, you can actually change a lot of things about the shape of any object. But notice how right now, if I want to change something, everything is highlighted. So it's just going to move everything as a group, and that's not what I want. So I'm going to undo that. And what we're going to do now is click off to the side, like right click off to the side, or hit the A button to deselect. And notice how if I hit A again, it will select all of the vertices and all of these different points. Now I'm going to hit A to deselect. If I, let's just pick any point on this object and just kind of drag up. Now we're changing the shape of this just by moving the vertice points around. So I'm just going to hit G to just change it into wild and funky shapes. Whatever you want, you can start to get creative with it. That's one way, but let's say I'm going to hit 1 on the keyboard and go into the orthographic view. If I want to change this, if I want to select several vertices at once, let's say I want to move these bottom ones down, type B for box select on your keyboard, and notice how you get that white cross. Draw a box around the vertices you want to select, and then let's move those vertices down. And you're probably thinking like, okay, now I'm starting to make some kind of funky shape here. But if you go around on the other side, you're going to notice that it did not move all around. So I'm going to undo that. And what we're going to do is go back, and now we're going to make sure that we select this option to see all the way through our object. If you have this selected, you can only edit what's visible. If you deselect this, you can see all the way through. So now we can see all around and know what we're selecting. So let's take a look again, and let's move that down. And now we've moved it all the way down. And I'm going to undo that because we're going to play around with something called proportional editing. Under this menu right here, the default is only to select one vertex at a time. But if you go to this menu, you can actually change it to have proportional editing. So we'll demonstrate what that means. Let's select connected, which is the first option. If you select G to grab on your keyboard, you notice how all of a sudden it's not just moving one vertex, but it's moving everything in proportion. And if you use your middle mouse button wheel, you can control how much it's going to select. If it's larger, then it's going to kind of move everything. If you make the wheel smaller, it's going to have a more concentrated selection. But this is a great way to start to shape and mold really cool things inside of Blender just by using the proportional editing options. And you can even grab, and if you wanted to rotate something, you could press R on your keyboard, and now all of a sudden you have something that's taken a very unique shape. And we just played around with a few things. So those are the two different ways that you can work inside of edit mode. You can grab vertices, but you can also grab all of your individual edges. So as you can see, I'll go in closer, but let's say we wanted to highlight this edge, and it highlights in white. So if I grab it, and I'm going to turn off proportional editing so it's more clear, but if I just wanted to move this edge up and I wanted to move this edge back, now all of a sudden you can see I'm moving edges and not just the individual vertice points. So I'm going to now look at moving faces. If you select this option, notice how we have faces that we can select. So if we look and see here, we can actually grab an entire face and move it out, as opposed to the vertices or the edges. Now we're moving faces out. So let's do that one more time. And since we can see all the way around, we can actually look inside and see different faces that we can move or manipulate and make really cool and funky shapes. One of the great things that you should just play around with Blender is just get in there and build different shapes. And once you get more comfortable with these editing tools, you can make some pretty cool things inside of Blender. So I'm going to press the tab button to come out of edit mode, and this will put me back inside of object mode, and we've created this funky shape. I don't know exactly what it is, but it looks like it could be the start of something really cool. And if you wanted to, you could also change that shading to smooth just to see what it looks like as smooth or flat, and experiment with that inside of edit mode and object mode. And that concludes our video. Thank you for watching.